Hi and welcome to a day in the life of Project Marlin. This video sort of come about because we've been trying to put out videos that focus on the job that we're doing at the time. Maybe a few other things mixed in, but that's not always possible. At the moment we get probably one day in a week, maybe at a weekend if I'm lucky, that I can put to the side and actually go and do something on the Marlin or do something else that might be worth making a video about. Some of these jobs are ongoing and you can only do little bits at a time. The Marlin, the last few videos have been stripping the cab out. I don't really want to make another video about stripping the cab out because you've seen it. I'll show you what's done at the end of it and what we uncover, but you don't want to watch me drilling rivets out anymore, or I don't want to watch me drilling rivets out anymore. I'm working on an air compressor that may or may not end up as a video. Found a bit of a problem with that, but we'll show you a clip of that later on. Things are moving quite slowly with the Celica for Jimmy. Until we get the 2-post lamp wired up, that is sort of on a hold, and there's certain reasons for that which we will come to at the end of the video. Anyway, I will leave you now and I'll see you later on. So it's 8:30 on a Monday. It's about 2 degrees I think, Alexa said, so quite cold. Colder than I'm used to at the moment. So I'm just loading some stuff in the van. So we've got GoPro charger, GoPro charger for the camcorder, wireless mics, new set of Allen keys, long Imperial Allen keys. I'm just going to pop back in the house and fill this up with sugar, and we are going to be playing a bit today with Jimmy's Celica, so we need a battery. Now I've got a battery that's I keep on the van to jump start things, but it's on a forklift somewhere, so I've got to go and pick that up, and then we've got to go to the shops. So off we go. So there we go, got the forklift. There's my red top that I need, so I'm going to pinch that off this thing. Oops. You just put a hydrostatic pump in it and a new filter head. It's absolute pain in my bottom at the moment, but we'll get it working. But I'm actually, this is Hortico Plant Centre near Sherston, so if you're in Wiltshire or Gloucestershire or anywhere, we're sort of up north of Chippenham, nearly on the Gloucester border heading towards Westonbirt Arboretum. Right over the back there, there's a little coffee shop. You can go in there, get yourself a coffee and a brilliant slice of cake, and then they've got all the socially distanced seating in one of the tunnels. Antique bits, well not antique bits, but like gardenalia and vintage stuff, and I sell some mowers out here, and it's a really nice place. If you're local, I'd really suggest, if you've not been here before, to come and try it one day. They're open 7 days a week. It's really nice. I ended up doing a load of work up here for them, but that's because I was spending loads of time up here anyway because I liked it. A cup of coffee or a cup of tea. Anyway, let's get this battery and then I've got to nip to the shops quickly. Well, here we are. This is my local post office and village stores. It's a beautiful old Victorian building, and incidentally this used to be my primary school, and that used to be the post office. The post office over here now. The village bought it, so I'm going to cover my face up because that's what we've all got to do, and I'm going to go and buy a couple of bits and pieces, and I'll see you over the farm. Alright, so over the farm now. It's going to be a nightmare of a day. It's been about an hour I've been running around so far, so it's about 9:30. We've got a lot we're going to try and do today. I want to do some more on the truck. I was doing some filming yesterday of more stripping of the cab, taking down one of the roof panels, worked out how the back panels come off. That video is probably going to be a week or two before it comes out, because I need to film more, which I'm going to try and do this morning. And at about 11, I think, Jim's coming over, so we want to try and do a video on the Celica today, or at least start filming a video on the Celica today. And I've got a video that I've started filming on the air compressor, and I want to try and do some more on the air compressor today, because I've finally got to get it apart so I can have a look at the bearings. So that's 4 videos, including this one, that are getting filmed today, all in bits and bobs. This one I thought might be interesting for people to see what goes on off the videos a bit more. I suspect once Jimmy turns up, there'll be some discussions about how we're going to film and what we're going to do. So this one will probably come out after the Celica video, maybe. I don't know. Depends which video is finished first. Jimmy likes to plan things out, which is a very sensible way of doing things. I tend to say whatever comes out my mouth and film whatever I happen to be doing, which means I've got half videos all over my hard drive at home. I've got half a video on the bar beacon for the roof, because it's stripped down. I was waiting for parts, the parts have come in, but I've not got around to putting them back together again. I've got a video on the brake cylinders, the master cylinders on the brakes, that's half filmed. I just haven't got around to I filmed stripping one down, but I was in a hurry putting them back together again, so I didn't film it. So I've got to film myself putting one back together. But the ones that I haven't done yet are still on the truck, and if I refit them I can't bleed them up. Not that the truck's going anywhere, but I don't really want to leave them rebuilt and empty. So it's sort of, can't win on that one. Right, I suspect I'll see you guys again when Jimmy gets here. So I'm going to have a hot drink because it's cold and I want one. And I'm going to try and do a bit more in the cab of this thing. It's getting hard work. In fact, I'm just going to turn the van off quickly and we'll go and have a quick look around things. Or will we? Hang on a minute, I'm going to have a think. So I saw a comment this morning about the rust in the cab, and how surprising it was. It wasn't better waterproofed. And yeah, I sort of agree with that. I do agree with that. I'm surprised at the rust. It's shocking, it's everywhere. But I spoke to one of the guys who was involved with the build of this truck a little while back, and really ashamed. My memory's, I can't remember the bloke's name. I do have it written down. Very, very nice gentleman. He's very, very proud of being involved in the build of this truck and the others. And yeah, you can see in a lot of places there's some real craftsmanship have gone into this truck. The issue with the cab, I think, from what he said, was that the truck was rushed. They were being pushed to get it to the fire show at the NEC, Fire International, and I think, from what was said to me, that the truck was never finished, so it was got together and it looked together so they could get it to Fire International, but certain things were never done properly. Hang on a minute, I'm going to show you my little friend. Not very ladylike. This little devil has been hanging around the truck recently. She's very, very friendly. Whoops, there she is. Go on, Puss. You come in? Here she comes. Oh, that's a big stretch for a little cat. I'm going to say hello to my mate and then I'll come back. Well, at least you didn't have to see me baby talking to a cat. She comes to see me quite regularly now, it's quite nice. and hopefully should be keeping the mice down a bit. Where was I? Yeah, the truck I don't think was finished. From what I was told, it was put together to get to Fire International, and then they were expecting to have it back to the factory to do the finishing touches. And I believe there was supposed to be weatherproofing going behind the dashboard between the outer skin and the inner skin of the bodywork. So I think that is one of the reasons why we've ended up with so much rust in the cab. And there's been a few mods done to it over the years which haven't been sympathetic to the structure. There was a foam gauge put in up the back of the cab. If you remember, this pipe here, I don't know if you see, that pipe there went up through that hole. That was a level tank, level gauge, just a sight glass up inside the cab. But that's not original. The original one is an electronic one, but the bracket for it had rusted through inside the tank and fallen off. So I think rather than fix that, they put the sight tube in. Anyway, that's enough on that side of it. I'll give you a quick update on the windscreen, where I am with that. I've spoken to I've emailed Pilkingtons, and a nice lady called Emma got back to me. They've got it on the tooling list still, so without actually having to get it measured up, it looks like we might be able to get one made. Only issue was that it's on a restricted sale, so I can't buy one. Now, I can't buy one because it means I've got to go through Bowtons. Bowtons don't do fire trucks anymore. They don't do spares for fire trucks anymore. But just looking down, so I'm looking at my phone at the emails. Cause, I had a very helpful gentleman I spoke to on the phone, Peter Carey. Very, very helpful gentleman. Peter, if you see this video, thank you so much. Peter's spoken to his sales director, Mr. Steve Price, and again, Steve, thank you. And it's been okayed that I can go direct to Pilkington. So this coming week, I will get onto Pilkington. We'll get it all sorted out so I can actually get a quote and find out how much it costs. I mean, we're not going to need the windscreen till probably next summer. By the time we've got the metalwork in the cab sorted and we're in a position to put the windscreen back in. It'd be nice if it was sooner, but at least if we know how much it's going to be and they know that we're going to want one, hopefully they'll keep the tool in, and we'll be able to keep some money aside for it. Anyway, once again, Peter, Steve, thank you so much. We might have been sunk without you, without that bit of help. And yeah, I think I'll leave this bit here, and you'll probably see me again once Jimmy gets here. Right, so this is obviously part of the governor assembly, and yeah, do you see it's in two pieces? So, well, I say it's part of the governor assembly. I don't know what it's for. Well, as you can see, we've got some problems with the compressor. There's no point in continuing on with it at the moment until we can work out a way of either replacing or fixing that brass part. There's no point, I don't think, in spending money on bearings and time on the bearings if the compressor is still going to be unusable after this without that part. Got some ideas. We've had a look at some second-hand parts but haven't been able to find any, but do have an idea about fixing it, so you'll see that in a later video if we manage to do it. We'll see. Anyway, that's not the end of our day. I'll let you see what we did afterwards. So now Jim's turned up, not that you can see him. We're just sort of discussing what we're going to do for the rest of the day. I've got to a point on the Marlin where I want a day away from it. I found out the compressor's properly broken, so I need to try and find parts for it, so that's come to an end, try and film that bit. and yeah, we're just discussing what to do about the Celica.
Yeah, so we might square some bits up in the workshop, try and drag the Celica out, give maybe a better look of it out here in the open, and maybe give you guys a better look around it for a future video. Or we'll do what usually happens and talk for 2 hours about what we should do and not actually get anything done.
Some of that's mud. That'll be fine. So we decided to try and see if we get the Celica to turn slightly with the starter motor. We weren't sure if it was the immobiliser or the starter or the engine being seized, which is what all this is about. But I forgot to explain in the actual video. So,
do you want me in the car ready to try?
No, because we're not going to do it like that.
No.
No. We're going to bypass all of that.
Oh, bypass the immobilised ignition.
Yeah.
What's it telling me? Oh no. The car's actually bloody on. Right, the ignition was actually turned.
Oh.
No. It was on the accessories. So.
That's better. Right. So what's actually going on here is I'm removing the exciter wire from the starter motor, from the solenoid, and I'm going to use a power probe to power it
from an external source instead of going all through the ignition system. That way it will prove whether it's a problem with the wiring to the starter, or it will cut it down to being a problem with the starter or potentially the engine seized.
You were hoping it'd do so now, weren't you?
So right now it looks like a starter issue. There's absolutely no noise coming from the starter, no click or anything. We know it's got power to it. As usual, I'm considering it's a problem with my tools, but in this case it wasn't. The starter was not attempting to function at all.
That's right. Yeah, no, your starter's stuck.
We hit it.
Probably, but my experience with those starters is that is pretty much the same as the one I had on the Land Rover. Just get out of the way. If you look down at this end, that there
Yeah.
is a rubber buffer, puts back in there, and it corrodes to that. So, well, let's just show everybody. Let's. So the starter's not working, it's down here. So that's the motor, that's the solenoid. There's a rubber buffer on the solenoid that goes into this back plate. And I've had them before where they stick into this back plate. So I think it could be that that's caused them problems. And it looks like we might even be able to get to it. So, might be able to do something with that, Jim. Right, so we've had a look at the starter and the plunger seems free on the solenoid, so we're going to try again. That might not be a very good sign. Seized, potentially. Could be the starter seized, or it could be a starter problem, but it also could be an engine problem.
So now we can hear the starter solenoid clacking. We know the solenoid's moving.
We'll have to
And
investigate
the
that a
fact
bit more.
that it's still not turning, we know it's got a good battery, indicates there's another issue.
So, as you can see, we knew there was a starter problem. The other day, when we first got the Celica over to the farm, and we didn't film, we had put a battery on it to see what electrics were working. Jim had turned the key to the start position, and we knew that nothing had happened. So we knew there was a problem. We weren't sure if it was a wiring issue or an immobiliser issue, because there is an aftermarket immobiliser on it, or we didn't even know if the engine was seized or anything. So we've basically proved that it was a problem with the starter, which is the first little clip. We've proved that the solenoid is now working, now we've taken the end cap off, but it's still not turning over. There's a couple of issues. It could be when you're trying to engage it that the ring gear is just hitting the flywheel and it's not able to engage fully, and because it hasn't been used for so many years, it's just not, it should turn slightly as it goes in, but if it's a bit bit, not completely seized, but a bit stiff, it might not be turning to engage into the teeth properly. And if it doesn't engage into the teeth properly, it won't spin, or it shouldn't spin. Now we're going to do something in this next clip which is what we should have done first before even putting a battery on it. I know this, I knew this at the time, but we don't always do the things that we should do and do them in the right order. So what we're going to do now is put a bar on the crank pulley and actually find out if the engine's seized up.
Right. Yeah, it's turning.
The engine's not seized.
Engine not seized, pulley's turning. He's definitely turning.
So it looks like the starter's stripping.
Or replacing.
Oh yeah, or replacing. So at least we know it's not as bad as we thought it could have been.
Any little port in the storm, as it were.
Yeah. Right, we've just connected the battery back up for the jump leads. We're just going to see if the starter will click with the
Yeah, we're trying to see if
with the ignition.
it'll click, because we just want to make sure the immobilisers, there's some ancient immobiliser thing in this. We want to make sure it's not doing anything stupid, at least to give us some bonus of the day. Ready?
Ready? Yeah.
Did that thing just start turning over?
Yeah, that's gone over compression at least once.
Okay,
That's good news.
that happened.
Unexpected, I think, is probably what you meant.
I'm not quite sure what to say to that.
No, I think the starter must have been tooth against tooth and not have enough power to, or be too stuck to engage yourself properly. That's
A result?
yeah, that's much better. I think we should leave that there. Well, that's sort of a day in the life of Project Marlin. As you see, we sort of turn up, not sure what we're going to do, don't know what we're doing most of the time we're doing it, but it's been quite a successful day. We haven't done anything on the Marlin in the end, but we've made a bit of progress with the Celica, and it's now nice and clean. We've had a tidy up here in the shed, and hopefully evicted a couple of mice.
Yep.
And it's, yeah, we've done things that needed to be done.
Yeah, it was one of those days, 95% procrastination and 5% actually doing things, but I must say, it may seem like I was a bit special wanting to just give the car a clean off, but it's been covered in a layer of rubbish for 5 years now, so at least, be able to look at it a bit better, and it makes you feel a bit better about it. And it was when that starter motor wasn't doing anything, that was a bit of a big kind of engine potentially seized. So it was a pleasant surprise after Magic Stew. I fettled with it a little bit and managed that it coughed and started to turn over, which caught us both out by surprise. That's least I can say about that. Still kind of a little bit shocked by it now, to be honest, because every time we've had a battery on this in the past few months, it's done nothing. So that's why I went to have a look and see what the starter was doing, because I originally thought we'd have to drop the engine to get the starter off, or move a lot of stuff out of the way to be able to get to it, but turns out you can get to it a much easier way as that. But then, as you've seen from the clips, nothing was kind of going the way it should, but eventually we got a little result, which I feel like we've achieved something today. It's been a long day, but workshop's certainly a lot tidier, a lot better. I hope to do a bit over on the Marlin, but much like comes to thing, you come there with a plan was originally spend the morning on the Marlin, then tidy this up, and then eventually get to the Celica. But best laid plans. 2 out of 3 ain't bad.
Well, as you can see, that was our day. A day in the life of Project Marlin doesn't always end there. Sometimes it involves some video editing, or trying to research parts, or all sorts of different things. However, the day this was filmed, that was the end of it. Came home, had some tea, and sat on the sofa. Now, I mentioned earlier on that we need to have a look underneath the Celica, and we're not really going much further until it's been up in the air. And that's because it touches on something I've talked about with the Marlin before, is when do you call it on a project? Where do you draw the line? We know a few years ago, Jimmy saw under the Celica about 5 years ago, before it was stored for a second time, and there was some rust under there. It wasn't terrible, but there was some rust. It's since been stored in the barn, where there was an element of moisture in the barn, so we don't know whether the floor pan and the chassis has deteriorated. And it comes to a point with any project where sometimes you have to draw the line, be it the amount of work, the cost, whether you think it's salvageable. And I know that if you've got enough money and enough time and enough resources, you can do anything. Let's face it, they built a brand new steam engine a few years ago, Tornado, and that's a real big project. I've talked about it with the Marlin. At some point, I've come to the conclusion that it may no longer be viable. As it is, so I've been told many times, I'm unhinged. I'm unlikely to get to that point. I really want to see the Marlin through. But the Marlin will have some significant value when it's done, hopefully. And I think it's also an important piece of history. It wasn't mass produced, it wasn't widely used, but it was quite an important turning point, at least in my opinion, in the history of airport fire trucks. The Celica itself, that's, in my eyes, is quite a important piece of history. The UK spec GT4, they're unusual. Most of the GT4s that you do see about of the early type, like Jimmy's, the 165, tend to be Japanese imports, not the UK spec ones. The GT4 was a world championship car. It was around in the era of the Escort Cosworth. The Escort Cosworth is our absolute icon of a car, and I love them. I think they're brilliant. But the Escort Cosy never won a rally championship, whereas the ST165 Celica did. So again, it's an iconic car. It should be more iconic than it is, in my opinion, but we can argue about that. But it may be that when we put it up in the air, it's decided that the body shell and the floor pan is going to be too costly to restore, and that's not my call to make. It's Jimmy's call to make. It's his car, and to be fair, I will support him with whichever way he decides to go on this, because I am aware that sometimes you have to draw the line. So I've got a question for you guys. Where would you draw the line on a project? Would you have drawn the line on the Marlin already? Would you already draw the line on the Celica and say no, it needs to go to somebody else, or it needs to be scrapped? Have you got a project where you've come close to saying no, I can't continue with this, or you have in fact decided not to continue? I'd love to hear about that down in the comments. And would your decision be influenced by how rare it was, how important it was, who owned it in the past? Again, they're all things that you can take into consideration. So I'd love to know these answers. So if you want to get involved with this conversation, I'd love for you to put the answers to my questions down in the comments. But anyway, as always, these videos have to come to an end. If I didn't ramble so much, they'd come to an end much quicker. But unfortunately, you're stuck with me. So, if you like this video, click a like. If you haven't liked this video, hit the dislike. At least it tells me if I'm doing the right thing. Always love to hear your comments. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel and you'd love to see our videos again, please hit the subscribe button. And if you want notifications, there's always the bell icon to turn them on. I think that's about it, so we'll wrap up by saying thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Cheerio.